Hi, today I'm going to talk about 3 mistakes that can kill your startup. I believe that these 3 mistakes are fundamental for early stage startups. So mistake number 1 is setting up unrealistic expectations. Where do all our expectations come from? Usually from social media, from listening to other founders, attending some founders events. The problem is we all know this wonderful concept of fake it till you make it. So it's really weird that we build our expectations based on some stories that we can't prove. In a nutshell, all the stories are pretty similar. 2 smart founders met somewhere at Stanford. They put some plan on a napkin. In a couple of months, they already raised $5 million from their professors. And in 12 months, their startup became a unicorn. I guess this sounds familiar. We all know that these stories are usually full of exaggeration, but still, for some reason, we tend to believe them. And we tend to build our own expectations based on these stories. So why is it bad? First of all, you always feel behind. You feel that you're doing something wrong. It creates anxiety, it drains a lot of energy, and you start making wrong decisions. I'll give you a couple of examples from my personal life as a founder. Example number 1. I was rejected by a very good first-tier fund because they invested in a similar startup that was way better than Hints. The startup was launched the same time as Hints, but was 10 times better, 10 times more revenue, etc. So I felt like a loser. I felt extremely demotivated. I didn't know how to keep up with the startup. The big surprise is later I found out that that startup was actually 2 years older than Hints. It's a very typical story when startups, after finding their product market fit, tend to hide a couple of years of their history. I guess founders feel excited that finally they are on the right track after a lot of experiments, testing hypotheses, so they make their story look better, telling that we came up with this idea just 6 months ago, etc. The biggest problem was, because of that case, I started to spend more money on marketing, because I felt that if they're doing so great, then it means that we were doing something wrong. We have to move faster, we have to show more users, more revenue, and as now I know, it was a wrong decision. I pretty much wasted some money just because I was comparing Hints, our startup, to someone who was 2 years older than us. Another example. I don't know where it came from, but for some reason I thought that when you launch your startup, you need 1 or 2 years to get to the point where your startup looks like a business, meaning that you found your product market fit, you knew how to scale your revenue, you already have some team, but I don't know where it came from. In reality, when I started to talk to real founders who succeeded in their startups, I found out that you need 3 or 4 years to get to this point where it's not a startup with a lot of uncertainty, it's a real business. So why it was terrible in my case? I thought, again, that we were behind, because I think after 12 months mark, when we were far from showing revenue scale and having product market fit, I decided that I had to hire more people to move faster, which was a critical mistake, because having more people actually slows you down. At the very first stages of your startup, the most important thing is the speed of iteration, so how quickly you can adjust. All great startups, they made at least a couple of pivots. Even guys like YouTube, they started as a video dating app. So you have to be prepared that you most likely need to change your direction several times. And in order to do it fast, you need to have a small, nimble team. So because I had this wrong expectation that I had maximum 2 years to show great result, I started to rush things, I started to hire more people, and it just slowed us down, which again was a bad decision that happened to me because I had unrealistic expectations. Mistake number 2, comparing yourself to other founders, naturally comes from the previous mistake. You think you are behind, and you start looking around, comparing yourself to other founders who are more successful, which is very dangerous for the same reason. You waste a lot of energy, and you start making wrong decisions. I think the biggest problem here is social media, or that we use social media as our source of stories about other founders. Unfortunately, founders don't tend to share their real stories of failures stories where they felt miserable. Even when they do it, all the stories, they look like heroic acts of overcoming something when finally they did something great. I think that real stories of failure should sound like, I don't know, I can tell you from my personal experience. Sometimes it takes me 20 minutes just to open my laptop because I'm afraid to see some terrible news in my emails, some complaints from clients, some bad news from potential investors, and I just don't have energy to deal with it. So I'm sitting in front of my closed laptop for 20 minutes, just basically preparing for my Monday. This is the reality of founder's life, and not often people share this. So basically we build our expectations and we compare us to other founders based on some fake stories from social media. Imagine you're running a marathon and all participants, they started at different time. So you run next to someone, but you don't know when this person started. Maybe it's their 5th mile, or maybe it's their 25th mile. You don't know it, but still you try to keep up with their pace. This is a metaphor showing how wrong the idea of comparing yourself to other founders without knowing the full story. Finally, the mistake number 3, not prioritizing your mental and physical health. And again, it naturally comes from the previous mistake. You think that you're behind, you start working more, you think that you need to stop everything, just focus on work to keep up with other founders. And it just creates this vicious cycle. You work more, you have less time on exercising or on working with your mental health. I don't know what it can be. For me, it's meditation. For other founders, it can be dinners with their family, walking in parks. So basically anything that gives you positive thinking and peace in your mind. So we tend to stop doing these activities because we think that we are behind and we need to work more. The problem here is that energy and focus are the most important things for a founder. You as a founder, you not only take tactical decisions what to do and when to do, you have to be a leader of your team, meaning that you have to be the only person who believes in your success despite all uncertainty. And it takes a lot of energy to have this feeling inside that you will go through all struggles and you will succeed at the end of the day. So if you don't have this energy, it's the beginning of the end. It's like domino effect. It starts with you burning out, then your team feels that something is off, and finally you just don't know what to do. It all feels like complete mess. Also, losing focus makes you more reactive. Instead of thinking strategically about what's the most important thing you can do right now, you become more reactive, focusing on answering to emails and basically just reacting instead of creating something new. So this is why it's extremely important to take care of your physical health and your mental health. I think that for founders, taking care of yourself should be as important as an actual work. So if you meet with your clients, with investors, you understand it's important. But taking care of yourself should be at the same level of importance as other top priorities. Because again, without this, your team will feel that something is going wrong. So it's impossible to succeed when the leader doesn't believe in the future. To sum things up, first, be extremely realistic. You will need at least 3 years to get to the point where you can call your startup business. And don't rush things. Otherwise, you will waste a lot of resources, energy, money, etc. Second, don't compare yourself to other founders, because you compare yourself to some fake stories that you read about on social media. And finally, take care of your health, your physical and mental health. This is your most important resource. Thank you very much. I hope it was helpful. Bye.